Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm pleased to release the third and a final video of this series, Setting the Scene. Previously, I talked about ballasting and using tile grout for dirt. This video is going to be all about static grass. Static grass is a fantastic material for scenery, and I love to use it. So I'm going to show you guys how I applied static grass on my signature scene. This video will include how I layer static grass with different lengths, the proper way to apply it so it'll stick up straight, and how I use an airbrush to give the static grass a unique color. Using the airbrush is definitely the optional step. I know not everyone has access to one, but I decided to include it in this video because it just gives the static grass a very unique look to your layout. Now let's jump in and get started. The star of the show is the Woodland Scenics Static Grass applicator. It's relatively pricey at around $100, but it's worth the investment. Next is the static grass. I'm using static flock, 4mm, and 7mm grass. The colors may vary depending on the scene, but I'm going with harvest gold for the flock and straw for the rest. The last major item is the glue. I originally started with Liquitex Matte Medium. It's a fantastic glue, but for a more cost-effective use, I switched to Mod Podge Matte Medium. The first step is to paint on the glue. The way I go about applying the glue is to paint on the glue how I want the grass to appear. This step is key for the look I'm after. The region this scene is based on is fairly arid. The grass isn't as lush and is fairly patchy. This is why I'm leaving gaps in the glue. Obviously, for grass that's more lush, the glue would cover the surface entirely. Also, how thick or thin the glue is applied determines the density of the grass. The second step is to apply the static grass. The first layer is the static flock. The key to get static grass to stick up straight is to hover the metal clamp over the grass and follow the applicator closely. This technique is used on all lengths of static grass. Right after I apply the grass, I do a preliminary vacuuming up of the excess. This acts as an additional help to get the static grass to stand up straight, and it cleans up the area as I get some of the static grass back. The piece of paper towel at the end of the tube is to catch the static grass so it isn't wasted and I can use it later. I'm careful not to vacuum too low, otherwise the vacuum will grab the surface and ruin a chunk of the grass since the glue is still fresh. You can also see the dead spots in the grass start to take shape. Now we wait about 24 hours for the glue to dry. Now that the glue has dried, it's time to vacuum up the rest. I'll vacuum a bit more aggressively since the static grass is firmly glued to the surface. I want to clean up as much of the loose grass as I can since it's collected and used again later. Not shown in the video, but I do more passes with the vacuum to make sure most of the excess is vacuumed up. You can see my method starting to take shape. The grass has plenty of dead spots where there is no glue, and some thin areas where the glue is applied thinner. The flock is easy to stand up since it's so short. When applied like this, it almost feels like suede or a similar material. Flock is great for N-scale length grass, but also works with HO scale, or at least compared to this truck. Either way, flock is just the base for this layering process, so let's move on to the next length. This next layer is 4mm static grass. At this point, I switched to Mod Podge to glue the static grass. It's applied directly over the flock. Just like the last step, the glue is also applied in the same patchy manner. This step uses a little more glue for extra strength, so the grass sticks to the flock. I make sure to leave some of the flock exposed to have height variations in the grass. This is supposed to add that arid look to this scene. Once that's done, I begin to apply the 4mm grass. I'm still using the method of hovering the clip over the surface while following the applicator. Almost every time, this method will stick the static grass straight up. Right after I'm done applying it, I'll do another preliminary vacuum of the grass. With the 4mm being taller than the flock, this really aids in standing up any remaining grass, as well as cleaning up the excess. Between this cut, I wait about 12 hours to let the glue harden and vacuum up the rest. I discovered by using Mod Podge, it cut significantly down on dry time compared to Liquitex. Now, with these two layers complete, the look of the grass is starting to come alive. At this stage, you could really call it complete, or especially for N-scale, if you don't need taller grass. The colors of both static grasses together look pretty good, even using the standard Woodland Scenics colors. Shown later, you'll see how painting it will even out the colors. For the third and last layer, I'm applying glue for the 7mm static grass. This layer takes the most glue since sticking up 7mm grass takes good glue strength, in addition to gluing over the 4mm grass. This length of grass doesn't need to be applied as much as the others. It's supposed to show the variation of grass length and stay true to the look I'm after. Now we can finally apply the third layer of grass. The 7mm grass takes a little bit more effort to shake out of the applicator. It also takes more time to shake enough to have good density in the grass. Using this static grass method to get the grass out of the applicator for this length is crucial. The longer the static grass, the harder it is for the applicator to get the grass to stick up straight. Doing the preliminary vacuum especially helps the 7mm grass stick up straight while cleaning up the excess. Again, between this cut, I waited 12 hours before doing the final cleanup of the grass. And alas, all 3 layers of static grass are now complete. Layering static grass like this is time consuming, but the end result is worth it. The variations in length of the grass give it a realistic look and is fairly close to the arid landscape I am trying to recreate. You could stop here and leave the color of the grass as is. Since this scene isn't large, I decided to go the extra mile and airbrush additional color onto the grass, which is coming up next. Airbrushing static grass is actually incredibly easy. It's basically waving the airbrush back and forth, applying paint. Since it's low stakes, it's actually a good way to practice throttle control on the airbrush and fine movements over a surface. The only trick to this is to have fairly thinned down paint. I use any lighter shade of brown Tamiya paint. I mix it with plenty of isopropyl alcohol. I don't have a specific ratio, just until it feels thin enough to apply in controlled layers. You can control the amount of color applied to the static grass better this way. Basically, just building up layers until the desired color. Now the airbrushing is done and all of the layers of static grass have been applied. Here is the final result. Painting the grass with an airbrush certainly adds a unique look to the scene, adding another layer of realism. This method of layering static grass is certainly time intensive due to the glue's drying time. It takes plenty of patience, but the end result is totally worth it. So there you have it, how I apply static grass to my layout. Static grass is a powerful material used to really bring your layout to life. It creates a realistic look to your scene, especially if you take the time to layer it. If you're on the fence about purchasing a static grass applicator, I would highly recommend investing in one. And to get the best results, remember to keep the end of the clip close to the bottom of the applicator as you apply the static grass. I would also like to thank everyone for their patience between uploads in this series. Creating the videos for this series does take a while, plus life outside of the hobby. But thanks for sticking around, and I hope you learned something new. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video.